Go ahead and start adding some of our leaves for fall, just so that they can kind of dry by the time we get the brown trunk over there. So I'm just get some red paint on my brush. Again, as I said, fall is my favorite time of the year. And again, this thinner brush works better for these little fine details. And you're just gonna kind of try and just take the tip of it if you can, and just kind of make like a rounded triangle shape maybe. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just giving kind of the idea that they're leaves hanging on the tree, ready to come off. And okay, I'm just going to do this, and this, you don't have to have a lot on the tree. We're gonna paint them red, and then we're gonna let them dry just a little bit, and we're gonna paint over them with some yellow. And I think we can all say together that when red and yellow get together, they make orange. And it's very possible you have orange in your paint palette. I just think it's kind of fun because then you kind of get the effect of having the two tones in your leaves. You get a little bit of orange and a little bit of red. So now I'm just gonna paint some that are kind of flying off the tree, and kind of thinking of a windy day, kind of blowing. And then where do the leaves usually end up? At my house, they're usually all over the ground. And you can actually, you don't have to do as much definition, meaning you don't have to make it as round or triangular shape. You can kind of just, you can even just kind of put the color, because again, we're going to kind of combine some other colors of fall. So I know I said I'm going to let those dry, but actually this is one of the times I think with your watercolor that it can bleed a little bit, just because we want to blend. So instead of bleeding into each other, we're actually going to kind of just blend. So what I did was wet my brush, and I got some yellow, and I'm just going to kind of tap over the red I just painted on. And you can kind of see that it's kind of giving it kind of an orangey effect now. All right, and let's kind of do that. And then I'm going to come down here. You can do the same thing on some of your leaves. I need a little more water because my paint's getting a little dried out. I don't want too much. If you ever get too much water that you feel on your brush, just dab it on your paper towel. So now I'm going to come down here and see those white spots. I'm just going to kind of fill them in with light taps. You don't want to push down hard. You just kind of want to tap it. So I kind of have my brush kind of upright, and I'm just kind of filling in my pile. And I'll probably come back later and do the same thing. So if you want to go ahead and finish getting all your leaves kind of two-toned colors, go ahead and do that. And then we will move on with brown to start painting our tree. Now we're ready to get started on our tree trunk, and we're going to do this kind of in sections. Remember, we started here with our green, and by now you might notice it's starting to feel dry. Mine's pretty dry, and my tree buds, yep, they're pretty dry as well. This may be a little wet still. Now mine's dry probably because I've been stopping my camera here and there, so yours may be a little bit wet as you move along. But that's the reason I'm doing this in sections, so that I can allow some time to dry so that our paint doesn't bleed together and cause a different effect than what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and use my bigger brush to start with down here on the wider part. So I'm going to get it wet and I'm going to dip it in the brown. The brown kind of nice and wet. Turn this around here. Okay. And I'm going to start kind of on the edge here. If you notice, it's pretty wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap my brush kind of on my paper towel. Yours may not be wet, so you may not have that. In fact, yours may be dry and you may need to have more water. If it's really washed out, like if you barely have any color, then definitely add some more. I have quite a bit of color, but I actually like it a little darker. And in nature, if you notice, trees don't always show as one color. You know, these are two different browns, probably because I use two different paint palettes. But you see in this tree, you have some darker tones and then some lighter tones. And I think that that just kind of gives it an effect that, you know, kind of like shading, you know, when the sun hits certain parts and, you know, certain parts that are in the shade look dark. So this is just your time, and what we're gonna do is you are gonna paint the trunk to here and over into the winter. So paint the winter branches. And if your green is dry, go ahead and paint up here and do your best not to paint over the green buds. So I'm just gonna let this run, and if you need to pause it, go ahead. Okay, now that I've got my spring section, the branches painted, add just a little bit more here. That's actually gonna be pretty dark. Ooh. Okay, I hadn't painted this in, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint up to the base of where it starts to turn green. And I think what I'm gonna do, I'm kind of torn. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of branch into the tree. This is entirely up to you. Again, typically, tree's really full, so you may not see some of those upper branches. This is also, I'm going to add, because I feel like I need another branch going up in to that. Notice I'm not even really painting the original ones. I'm going to now, but I'm gonna add, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, I like it both ways. I like seeing the tree branches. Now the only thing with this one is it's pretty green, or sorry, it's pretty flat. It gives it flat appearance. Whereas this one, when I kind of call it stipple, when I kind of brushed it on there, I had a lot more white behind there. So again, you choose what you do. If you don't want any branches, you might just end your tree right, or end your your branches into the green right here, and then just have that green.